Hello, 14 Silver X here, doing part 2 on our scrolling shooter game. Last time, I believe, we have gotten our spaceship or our player to move around our room. And our room to scroll down so it looks like we are moving even though we are standing still. Okay. So now what we are going to do is I'm going to show you how to make your player shoot something. So we're going to need a separate sprite for this. So you want to create a new sprite. Name mine Shot1. And I'm going to make it smaller than our spaceship, because if it was really big, it just wouldn't look right. Well, it doesn't really look like right now because it's just a block, but later. So I'm going to set it each width and height half, so I get a small box. And to show that it's mine, like one of the good guys, I'm going to paint it green. Make the origin in the center. And yay, we have a new sprite. Alright, so now we're going to make a new object. And give it our shot. Name the object. And that's all we have to do. Now, we open up our player, and I'm going to set the space key as the key to shoot. So there are a couple of ways to do this. You can have it where if you hold the space bar, it will be on automatic, or every time you press the space bar, it's just basically semi-automatic. So the easiest way to do it is to put it on semi. Later on, when we clean up the game, I can show you how to put it on full auto, or how to switch between the two, or have both. But for right now, we're going to have semi-auto, which means every time you press it, you can shoot. It just makes the game more challenging, which is good. And that you will find in key press and the space bar. So this means every time I press the space bar, which means if I'm holding it or I let go of it, nothing happens. When I press it, something will happen. And that something will be to create an object. So in the main one tab, we have the create an object. This one will create the object, but we want it to move, so I want create moving. So we're going to create our shot, 0, 0, so that's in the center of our ship, so check the relative. Speed, now here's where you have to be careful. The minimum size of the enemy that I'm planning to make is 32 by 32. Now the speed works like jump, so it's just going to be here, and then the next second or millisecond is just going to be how many steps I put in here. So if you put your speed too high, it can actually jump over objects, which means it'll look like it just goes right through them and nothing happens. So that's not good. So you want to set it to at least, to be safe, one less than the minimum size of your enemy. So my enemy size is going to be 32 by 32, so I'm going to set my speed to 31. And for direction, up is 90. Okay. And then we run the game. So now, every time I press the space bar, even when I hold it, it just shoots one. And then if there's a lot of enemies, I can just rapid fire. Alright, now, like when the shots go up and out of screen, you would think they go away, but they don't. They are actually continuing on forever and ever. And if you have too many objects in the room, your game will start to lag. So if you shoot enough times, all your lasers are ending up here, and you just have an overflow. So what we want is when they leave the room, they just go away, so we don't have to worry about them. So in your shot object, add a vent, and in this other with the green diamond, there's something called outside a room. And then if you go to your main one, there's something called destroy instance. So this says when our shot is outside of the room, it will destroy itself. So we don't have to worry about it. It'll just go away. That's it. Alright, so now we've gotten our player to shoot. So now we want to shoot at something. So we are going to make our enemies. So I'm going to start off with a basic enemy. If this is a space game, and the basic enemy just really moves in the downward direction, it doesn't really do anything. So it's going, from my game, I'm going to make it an asteroid. Because I can't spell asteroid. 32 by 32, and to show it's an enemy, I'm going to paint it red. I'm going to make it in the center. Alright, so now I have a sprite for my space rock. So now I need to make it into an object. Space rock. Okay. Alright, the same thing with this. Eventually we're going to have our enemies moving down, and if we don't do anything, like they just go right past us, they're going to leave the room, and they'll still be there. So we're going to want to make them destroy themselves when they leave the room as well. Alright. So now we want something that will create our space rocks infinitely, because we don't want to have to keep on putting them in one position and having it just no good, because it will also lag the game. So we want an object that will create our enemies for us. So I'm going to create a new object. Call it the enemy creator, and for now I'm going to give it the space rocks sprite. You'll see why. So what I want my enemy creator to do, this is the easy way to do this, I want it to bounce across the room and at random intervals create my space rock and other enemies. So in the create event, which it creates when the game starts, I'm going to set the horizontal speed, and I'm going to say 15. So this, I'm going to put it in the edge of the room, and it'll start moving in the horizontal direction at a speed of 15. Now, I don't want it to leave the room, so in the other, intersect boundary, that means when it hits the edge of the frame, or like the game frame, I want it to reverse its horizontal direction. So this will make it bounce back and forth. So if we open a room, and put our enemy creator at the top corner, see, if you want to get it right in the top corner, you can switch this. It was easier before, sort of. This is fine for now. So if you run the game, there it goes, bouncing back and forth. So that's good. So now what we want our enemy creator to do is we want it to make our space rocks. But we don't want to see that thing bouncing back and forth. So right here where it says visibility, we just want it invisible. Alright, so we're going to add event, and this is the step event. This means like every time, like every millisecond, depending on the room speed. And our room speed is 30. There's some millisecond thing about it, but all I know, it's less than a second, I think. So it just basically constantly happens. So in the step event, and if we go to control, this is all our probability and variables, if, else's, yeah. So right here there's a die, and it says test chance. So this means this will give you probability, and right now it's 2. So it's going to roll an invisible die, and if it gets the number 1 on a 2-sided die space, it's going to flip a coin if you set it to 2. And if it gets heads, it's going to continue. If you get tails, it's just going to stop. So for our space rock, a 1 out of 15 chance. And you can raise it because when it constantly happens, there's a good chance of it happening. You can play with this depending on how hard you want your game. But when we add more enemies, we will definitely want to fiddle around with this number a bit. Alright, so when the probability occurs, we're going to create our space rock in the middle at a speed. Now, if you think of an asteroid and you're just coming towards it, it's about the same speed as the speed you are going, unless it's moving towards you. So since the speed that our ship is going when we're standing still is 10, because remember we set the vertical speed to 10, I'm going to set it to 10. And down would be 270. So in our game, our space rocks come down at a speed of 10, and we have to avoid them, or eventually we can shoot them. So right now they're creating really rapidly, so when I add more enemies I will definitely want to put that down. So yeah, we have a basic enemy. Alright, so now we want to be able to destroy our enemy, and that will have to wait for the next lesson, because I don't want to go over the amount of time I can put stuff on YouTube. So yeah, so we were able to make our player shoot with semi-automatic lasers. We were able to make our first enemy, and something that will create our enemies for us in a seemingly random pattern. So don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to save your game, and don't forget to make backups just in case your hard drive fails. And I will see you next time.